we have to realize we don't have a bottomless pit of money to throw at every aspect of climate change. It's not to say you shouldn't do some of these other things, but it does say you have to be what I would call economically grown up about this and recognize we have to prioritize. It's called strategy. And we have to do those things which are going to make most difference. So net zero as currently measured doesn't do the job. It's carbon consumption. We cause quite a lot more pollution than we think we do. We should pay for that if we want to stop causing further climate change. And we should specialize in those things that we contribute to at the global level. But what about net zero at the global level? How's that going? Well, we're 27 COPs down, and we ain't made a dent in the increase in carbon concentration in the atmosphere. Another 27 COPs aren't going to achieve it. And having spurious targets for the sake of having targets is of questionable value. You know, at the Paris COP, the whole purpose was, following the earlier Durban COP, that we're going to have legally binding targets on as many countries as possible. Well, there was never going to be legally binding targets, and there ain't any. We were going to keep to 2 degrees at Paris. Well, it was pretty obvious that what people offered at Paris didn't add up to 2 degrees. So what did they do? Did they say, we need to rethink, we need to look at this problem again? Or did they say, tell you what, we can't do 2 degrees, so we'll announce 1.5 as the target? You just couldn't make this stuff up. So here we are, post-Glasgow. We have the latest IPCC report, which tells us very clearly what the science says, and it's not good. And it says, effectively, we're not going to achieve 1.5. So what's the UN COP process response to this? Oh, well, if we're not going to achieve the 1.5 target, let's change the 250 net zero targets to 240 for the developed countries. Well, I put it to you that in 29 years, getting to net zero in a serious sense is a very, very big ask. I wouldn't bet on us achieving it. Might do, but I doubt it. If you tell me that you want to get to net zero for a developed country in 16 or 17 years from where we currently are, then I think you're just deluding yourself, like the Paris lot deluded themselves about 1.5. Setting targets into the future when existing politicians won't be in government might make us all feel good, but doesn't solve one iota of the climate change problem. So what do I conclude from all of this? I conclude that if we are going to have targets, they should be properly defined. I conclude from this that if we are going to spend money on net zero, and we should, then we should spend it on the things which make the greatest contribution to mitigating climate change. And I conclude too, that if we go on like this, on an unsustainable path, then it will not be sustained. I've never met anyone, any sensible person who believes that what we're doing to the climate and biodiversity, to the environment, is sustainable. Almost everybody rationally ends up with the position that what we're doing is unsustainable. But very few people draw the conclusion. If something's unsustainable, it will not be sustained. So you have to think quite hard about what our world looks like with, 3 degrees warming plus, with a whole chunk of the biodiversity gone, and all the consequences that flow from that. So far, what we've done is just scared ourselves to death with that, to try to make people do more now. And there's some merit in that. But the other side of it is to face up and plan for what that world is going to look like. Because going on as we are at the moment is not a path that's going to end up in a very nice sunny place, or rather it's going to end up in a very hot place. Thank you very much.